What would you do if the person who raised you was the one stopping you from being saved? I couldn't breathe. Not in a dramatic way, not like in movies. It was quieter than that. Slower, like the air in the room had turned heavy, thick, useless. My chest tightened in sharp, uneven waves, each breath weaker than the last. I remember staring at the ceiling, trying to focus, trying to stay conscious. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. Then the room tilted. Voices blurred together, someone shouting, footsteps rushing. And suddenly, paramedics were there, kneeling beside me, their presence urgent, controlled, practiced. "She needs oxygen," one of them said. I saw his hand reach for the mask. Clear plastic, tubing trailing behind it like a lifeline. Relief hit me for half a second, until my mom grabbed his arm. "Don't touch her." Everything stopped. No one argued. No one moved, just silence, thick, suffocating silence, and me still fighting for air. Why would she say that? That's when the fire captain stepped forward. He didn't rush, didn't panic. He just looked at me, then slowly down at my chart. And whatever he saw changed everything. The paramedic didn't argue, but he didn't step back either. That's what I remember most. The tension. You'd think in a moment like that, everything would move fast, decisions, actions, urgency. But instead, the entire room froze around one sentence. "You could kill her." My mom's voice wasn't loud. It wasn't panicked, it was controlled, certain. Paramedic Jake hesitated, his hand still gripping the oxygen mask. You could see it in his face, training versus doubt. He glanced at his partner, then back at me. My breathing was getting worse. Short, shallow, wrong. "Ma'am, with all due respect, she's not getting enough oxygen," he said. And here's the question you should be asking right now. How could oxygen possibly make things worse? I wondered the same thing. Because in that moment, nothing made sense. My lungs were screaming. My vision was narrowing into a tunnel. And yet, the one person who should have been begging them to help me was stopping them. But this wasn't sudden. Not really. Because if I'm being honest, something had been off for months. Little things at first. Dizziness that came out of nowhere. My mom watching everything I ate, asking questions no one else asked, changing vitamins, adjusting doses, writing things down in a notebook she never let me see. At the time, I thought she was just being protective. Now, I wasn't so sure. And neither was the fire captain. Because while everyone else was focused on me, he was. He was watching her, studying her. Like he already knew, something didn't add up. Then he stepped closer, his voice calm but sharp. "What exactly has she taken today?" For the first time, my mom hesitated. Just a second. But it was enough. Nothing unusual. And that's when his expression changed. Because whatever was happening, it wasn't just about me anymore. That hesitation was all he needed. You ever notice how some people don't react right away? They observe first, they wait, and when they finally move, it means they've already figured something out. That was Captain Morneau. He didn't raise his voice, didn't question her again. Instead, he reached for the paramedic tablet, calm, deliberate, and pulled up my chart. And everything shifted. His eyes moved quickly at first, then stopped. Right there. One line. I couldn't see it. I couldn't even fully focus anymore. My vision kept dipping in and out like someone flipping a switch, but I saw his face. And it changed. Not confusion. Recognition. "Hold on," he said, quieter now. He turned the screen slightly, just enough for the paramedics to see. Did anyone read this part? Jake leaned in. His partner followed. And suddenly the urgency in their movements paused. Because there it was. A note buried in my medical history. Rare metabolic condition. Oxygen sensitivity. Administer with strict regulation only. Let that sink in. The very thing meant to save me could actually make it worse if done wrong. So now ask yourself, was my mom right? For a split second, the entire room flipped. She wasn't the problem anymore. She was the only one who knew. But then, Captain Morneau kept reading, scrolling. And that's when something else caught his attention. "Why are these dosage records handwritten?" he asked. The room went quiet again. Because that wasn't normal. Not in emergency care, not in official records. My mom stepped forward slightly, because no one else kept track properly. It sounded reasonable. Almost. But the captain didn't look convinced. His eyes moved between the chart and her. Calculating. Measuring. And then he asked the question that changed everything. Then explain why these numbers don't match any prescribed treatment. Silence. Heavy, immediate, unavoidable. So now the question isn't just what's wrong with me. It's this. What has she been doing? This wasn't just a medical emergency anymore. It was something else. You could feel it. The shift. No one was rushing now. No one was reaching for equipment. Even my breathing, still weak, still uneven, felt like it had become secondary to something bigger unfolding in that room. Captain Morneau wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at her. "Start from the beginning," he said. Not aggressive, not loud, but there was weight behind it. And for the first time, my mom didn't answer right away. Have you ever seen someone lose control, slowly? Not all at once, not dramatically, just small cracks forming in something that used to feel solid. That was her. "They said it was anxiety," she finally said, "that nothing was wrong." Her voice was steady, but thinner now, strained. "They sent her home, again and again, so I started tracking it myself. The symptoms, the patterns, what made it worse, what made it better. And here, where it gets complicated. Because part of that, it worked. The dizziness stopped for a while. The episodes became less frequent. I remember that. I remember thinking things were getting better. But what I didn't know was that she wasn't just tracking anymore. She was changing things. Adjusting doses, adding supplements, removing others. No doctor, no oversight, just her deciding. Captain Morneau nodded slightly, like he'd already expected this. "You helped her stabilize," he said, "but you didn't understand the margins." That word hung in the air. Margins. You pushed her system too far. My chest tightened again, not just from the lack of air, but from something else. Realization. This wasn't random. This wasn't sudden. This was built. Slowly, quietly, over time. And now it was all crashing at once. I forced what little air I could into my lungs, my voice barely forming, dry and broken. "Mom." She looked at me immediately. And in that moment, I didn't see control anymore. I saw fear. "What did you give me?" Because whatever it was, it brought me here. And the answer. It wasn't simple. The answer wasn't simple. It never is it? Because in that moment, no one moved right away. Not the paramedics, not the captain, not even my mom. It was like the truth had finally surfaced, and now everyone had to decide what to do with it. Captain Morneau turned first. "Set up controlled oxygen," he said. "Low flow, we do this carefully. Notice the difference. Not no oxygen. Not full oxygen. Controlled. Measured." Because now they understood the problem. And more importantly, they understood her. The mask finally came down over my face. Cool air. Thin, steady, not overwhelming, just enough. And slowly, painfully slowly, my lungs started to respond. Each breath still felt fragile, but it was working. I wasn't slipping anymore. I was coming back. But the room had changed. My mom stood a few feet away now, not arguing, not intervening, just still. For the first time, she wasn't the one in control. And maybe that was the hardest part. Because here's the truth no one says out loud. She wasn't entirely wrong. She saw what others missed. She paid attention when no one else did. She pushed when doctors didn't listen. But she also crossed a line. And that line, it almost cost me everything. I looked at her through the mask, my vision finally clearing, and I didn't feel anger, not exactly. Just uncertainty. Because how do you trust someone who saved you and almost broke you at the same time? And maybe that's the real question for you watching this. What would you do? Trust the system, or trust the person who refuses to follow it? Because sometimes, the scariest moment isn't when you can't breathe. It's realizing who's been controlling the air all along.